Hello everyone, my name is Monique Lee and this is my presentation on Parenthood and Children. What factors need to be considered when deciding whether to parent or not? Well, there are several factors that come into play, one of them being financial independence. I know for me personally, me and my fiance are not as financially independent as we would like to have a child, so we have chosen not to have a child for the next few years. Stable home environment is another. When you have a stable home environment, there tends to be a lot less stress. When you bring a new baby into a home, there's always going to be added stress until you kind of learn a new routine. So having a stable home environment is definitely something that can help or be a deciding factor on whether you want to be a parent or not. Then comes the social pressure to have children. There's a lot of social pressure to have children that comes towards younger couples, that those might be the ones that let it be a factor in if they want to decide to have children or not. Also, desire to be part of that child's life and the partner that you chose to conceive with, regardless if you choose to be with that person forever or not. You chose to have a child with them, so that means that to be a good parent, you would have to at least see them or have some form of contact with them. So having that person be someone that you find, enjoyable or wanting to spend part of your time with is definitely a factor. There are definitely specific events or turning points that might lead someone to want to have their first child, especially in women. There are the 6 M's that we see. An unexplainable, insistent longing for a child is definitely something that most women feel. That can also be accompanied with a fear that time is running out, that they might be a little on the older side, and they haven't had children yet, so they don't know if they can. There's also a reaction to death of a parent, a close friend, or a spouse. It may change their mind in wanting to have a child. Sometimes the improvement or readjustment of personal finances, such as becoming financially stable, may be something that changes your mind in wanting to have a child. The maturity level, sometimes when you're aware that you've matured, become stronger sense of self, you realize that you can have a child. You can have a child now. Misplaced mothering, a determination to stop investing their nutrition instincts in men. This means that they often will get into relationships with men that want to be mothered, and they themselves will just go become a mother instead of babying adult men. So we definitely see a shift in how trends in parenthood have changed. The shift from agricultural to the industrial society and the development of education definitely transformed how children were once an economic asset to now economic liabilities. We definitely see towards 1911 in this graph all the way to 2011, we see a great rise and fall in the fertility rates. The total fertility rate is the number of live births a typical woman will have during her lifetime, as shown in this figure. The U.S. dropped sharply from a high 3.5 in the late 1950s to the lowest level ever recorded, 1.7 in 1976. This was a year marked by rising fuel and related costs to the accompanying energy crisis. So this meant that a lot of people decided not to have children because there was no money. to have them back to financially stable, and how that can be such a factor in deciding whether to have children or not. The TFR is lower among all races and ethnic groups than it was during the baby boom era. Thus, overall U.S. fertility in today is below the replacement level fertility to be able to replace its population. This means that our population is not rising quite at the same level that it once was. Children and families were central to the religious life of ancient Israel, and one of the central rites of Israel's religious life is circumcision, as it was tied to the birth of each male child. In religious history, the mark of Israel's identity is its covenant with God, born through the bodies of infants. In this context, children represented the ongoing survival of a culture and people. This birth helped ensure this future. In the era where the survival of women and children at birth were far from guaranteed, children signified a blessing from God to parents. Therefore, it was sought after. So there are many different trends throughout history, all the way back to Israel and religious times in the time of Jesus. Many families took this gift of a child as that of a gift or a blessing from God. Many families have several issues related to why they have waited to have children, ultimately pushing them to postpone. A lot of can be related to social, changing status, the roles of women, if they can afford childcare, back to financial independence and security. A lot of women see that there might be a lack of employment opportunities if they have children, or a growth in employment opportunities if they choose not to have children. They can also have other factors, such as if their job even is available for maternity leave. They even can have, if they even have family support, if this is their first, second marriage. There's also issues such as psychological, family planning. There's so many trends that can change how a person wants to have children, or not. There are many advantages to parenting in the 21st century to their challenges. In general, parents are now more involved because they have, in general, parents now have more education and are more likely to have exposure to formal knowledge about how the child's brain develops and those child raising techniques. Also, there are now many fathers that are more emotionally involved than several decades ago. Despite whether the parents stay together, those fathers tend to stay more involved. Despite media attention to street crime, there's actually more children exposed or less children exposed to violent crimes than there were 20 years ago. Also, a huge factor is cell phones and social media. This allows parents and children to virtually stay in contact at all times, keeping them in contact with generations far more ago. The internet can offer a solution to almost every situation, to every situation, simply because someone has mostly already had it answered. If you have a problem with not being able to help your child, there's often so many resources online. There are some challenges to parenting in the 21st century. The parenting role can come in conflict with working roles that can be for mothers and fathers. Like I said, maternity, paternity leave might not be necessarily guaranteed depending on your profession. Parents raise their children in a society characterized by conflicting values and points of view, meaning that one parent in a neighborhood might have a totally different philosophy on how to raise a child than their next door neighbor. And if those kids are friends, that might be hard if one kid is getting punished for something and the other isn't. So raising children in this society can be very conflicting. There's a lot of conflicting information on how to raise children. Like I said, to the advantages, there's so much information out there. Some of that information may be wrong or not necessarily be correct for your family. So there's a lot of conflicting information outside on how to raise children. Today's parents are often sandwiched between caring simultaneously for their children and their parents. So thankfully, as the medical profession has gotten better, our families are living longer, which also means that, they might not be able to work, but they're living. So parents have to take care of their parents and their children simultaneously, which might be hard financially if their parents aren't working currently. Another is parents are given full responsibility for raising good children. However, their authority is constantly being questioned. So you might raise your child one way and you're trying to raise them the best you know how, but another person might think that it's wrong. It's constantly going to be questioned. But that's just kind of how society is. We have to take into account that not everyone's right, not everyone's wrong. We kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt and just do the best we can. Thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation. This is all of the works cited for where I got my information. Each page was directly cited. If not cited, it was paraphrased from these texts. Thank you. Have a great day.